Welcome, everybody. We have a very good call scheduled for today. I would say a great call as we're here at the third Springboard at Home event. The current state of the union is that we have a lot of states out there announcing plans to get the economy moving again. These Springboard discussion panels really serve as a phenomenal avenue for you to hear from leaders in franchising that are blazing their trails, and also for you to ask them questions. At the top of the house here, what I want to do is, first of all, commend Brad and Lane, because you guys have no idea how much work goes on the back end of putting all this together, not to mention the investment in things like the franchise switchboard, which is a great resource for everybody. So what I'd like for you to do is show them some love in the chat box, because we want you guys to use that chat box as we go through here. Before a couple of announcements and then jumping into the panel discussion today, let's bring in Brad and Lane for a couple of comments. I think following that, we're going to have Jam give an update on Switchboard as well. So Brad and Lane, I'll toss it over to you guys.
Brad?
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Ryan, again for everything. And we really appreciate, everything Jam has done working with us, and Rob and Kelly for joining us today. And, this is a new horizon for everybody, because this is what everyone's been waiting for, is about when states are going to really start opening up in businesses. And Rob has been going through, having businesses open. Kelly's going through all the above with delivery open. He's got some locations down in Georgia, some down in Texas. So it's really important for us to hear everything. And, Lane and I are excited about this. And, as time goes on, we're looking for things to become more normal, but none of us know what the new norm's going to be. And as we prepared for this yesterday, talking to Kelly and Rob, it's interesting to hear about concerns that, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think about. Yep. And every week we learn something new. So I'm excited to hear about this, and I'll turn it over to Lane.
Well, thanks. And just before we get started, it's such an unusual world. Brad's had to learn the name of his housekeeper and mailman. He's been home so long. It actually identified him as the occupant of the house. I know he was very, very, very having a hard time, and I knew that Sherry was offering warm nuts if he walked stairs that had at least one landing in between, like a layover. And so, he's feeling better. He's a sad guy. He cut all his blankets down so his feet stick out the bottom, because he's not used to sleeping with a full blanket or in a king-size bed. But, He's in a support group with his golf clubs nanny, trying to, just
hey, my golf course finally opens on Friday, so we're smiling about that.
You had your chance. So today's, if you're a franchisor and you're on this call, your document either expired today or you updated it so that you'd have a new document for tomorrow. So I know our teams have been working like crazy remotely to make sure that the filings were timely made. My comment and observation is I didn't see people run for the hills and abandon franchising, at least, signing a petition to say stop. I want no ability to sell. Everybody has pretty much updated their documents. Some people have a slower moving audit, and they'll ultimately deal with registration states when they get there. But I'm happy to report that people did what they always do, which is update their document at this time of year. So I'm so grateful, Kelly and Rob, for you sort of giving us the look from between the drive-through windows. From the restaurant perspective, I think this is the part, it affects so many parts of our lives, and even how it is or was 2 months ago is so different from what it was when we were kids, and a bologna sandwich or tomato soup and goldfish somehow was the option, not, an Uber Eats alternative. Ryan, you know what that is? Tomato soup, goldfish, bologna, any of those things happen there? I think Ryan's food had a name or a nickname or came in a box. All right, so let me give it back to Ryan.
Yesterday.
Many of you are probably admiring my Arboretum. It's a fake background. It's not really. No, it's not. It's real.
That's not his background. No. That's the real deal. Lane is a pottery guy, apparently.
Lane, apparently is a prisoner on this balcony. Anyway, so we appreciate all of you. I'm elated at the number of people that sign in each week. It tells us that the material that we're covering and the folks that we're bringing to the table are influencers are the folks that these people are tuning into. You'll see there are lots of activity in the chat box, lots of activity in the questions, and we're elated to have you join us. And we hope that this is one of many check-ins, Kelly, since we left you at Unconference, saying this is probably not going to be that bad, right? Martha was talking about doing travel stuff and events. You know what I mean? Like, funny. So let me go back to Ryan. Ryan will work in Jam, and then we'll get this baby rolling.
Yeah, Jam, do you want to give a quick update? I think we have some new capabilities available on the switchboard. For those of you that don't know what the switchboard is, it's a resource that Franchisors.com, Brad and Lane and team spun up really quickly to help address folks that are out of a job. Jam, do you want to give a quick update on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think since the last time we discussed launching the switchboard, our primary goal was to go out there and try to build a database of resumes of people that have been furloughed or laid off or experiencing drastic changes in their employment. And so we started collecting resumes, and we weren't really sure if it was going to get a lot of traction, but I very pleasantly surprised to find that there's a lot of people. Certainly they're very appreciative. We're trying to do the best we can. I actually selected a picture back here that kind of shows me jumping off a bridge, and the guys who were asking, why did you choose that picture? And I said, number one, in entrepreneurship, you may realize that building a business is kind of like jumping off a building and then building a plane on the way down. And so working with Lane over the last little while, he comes up with an idea, and it may be fairly complex to build a full job portal, but it's like, Jam, I'm doing a webinar tomorrow at 4 o'clock. You got to launch it in like 3 hours. And so I felt like jumping off a bridge. But luckily we got it together. But I'll tell you, it was a concerted effort, a lot of help from Crystal, who you heard last time launching it. And of course, the team at Fisher Zucker, Antonia, Brad and Lane, Ryan and Zach. And so just a couple of highlights. I'm going to share my screen real quick, just so I can bring it in front of you guys so you can see it. Let me know when you're able to see my screen.
Good.
Right.
Yep, so this is Franchisors.com. A couple of new things that I want to bring to your attention that we've added, and we're continuously going out there and modifying and adding new features. But before you would recall the submit a resume feature. You could go out there, click on submit a resume. You have the ability to go out there and create your resume online here on the website, and that actually helps you do a couple of things. Number one, it gets your name out, your resume out. But the second thing it does is allows you to apply for jobs that are now being posted on Franchisors.com. So the second feature that I'm really excited to launch is the job portion, which is under post a job. So if you're a franchisor, if you're a supplier, if you actually have a job that you would like to go out there and get in front of some of our franchise professionals, you can click on post a job. It'll take you to a page that allows you to go out there and enter in your job title, location, the job type, whether you're looking for someone that can work remotely. Do you prefer they have a CFE, yes or no? How soon are you looking to hire? You can add some descriptions in here about the job. And then, of course, a little bit more details about the company. This is actually quite a unique opportunity for you to put your job out there, but also for people that have submitted a resume to go out there and submit their resume to your job with one click. The other more exciting thing is if you're a recruiter, if you've got other companies that you know of, that you've got a relationship with, that you're going to go out there and you're able to post a job on their behalf.
At least
as well.
I did. I don't know exactly what he was going into on the recruiter side.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. As I was saying, if you're a recruiter, you are also able to go out there and post a job. And you can simply go out there and not mention the company details if that's what makes you comfortable, and put your contact information there. So people that are looking to go out there and get employment can go out there and get in touch with you directly. So we really want this to be a resource for people, not only on the job side, but also to be able to go out there and post their resumes and find jobs and post jobs. So that's the update for today. You can also go out there and review resumes by going and hovering over the Career Hub, as I'm doing here, looking at the different resume listings and the job listings as well. So
Perfect.
That's it from my side. If there's any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat or reach out to candidate support at franchisors.com. That's an email address we've set up specifically for support.
Thank you very much, Jam. All
Thanks,
right,
Jam.
let's jump into the content here. We've got a couple of really great folks on the line. One thing to note, we're talking about the restaurant business, but much of what you're going to hear today, I know I saw from the registrations, a lot of people are also in different industries. You will definitely walk away from this with some good stuff to apply to the business. So by way of introduction for today's panelists, Brad and Lane already alluded to it. We have a couple of guys, one on the franchisor side, a very seasoned leader, and then also a very large multi-unit operator. We have Kelly Roddy, he's the CEO of Saladworks, and also Rob Branca, which is a guy of many different businesses, most notably one of the largest a very large franchisee for Dunkin' Donuts. So guys, welcome to the discussion and thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks. We're glad to be here.
Let's start off and have both of you just introduce yourselves and your backgrounds briefly, just for the context. I know I kind of flew through it there, but we'll start with Kelly. Just a quick thumbnail on who you are, your background, and where you're at today.
Yeah, I'm Kelly Roddy. I'm the CEO of Saladworks. We're the largest good-for-you salad concept in the U.S., and we're in extreme growth mode, and we were rocking and rolling pre-COVID, and we're going to make it through it, you know. So we're really proud of the brand we have. We've got great franchise partners. We're staying in touch with those guys on a daily basis. I spend my days trying to get all the information I can around government regulations, lobbying, anything I can do to help the industry and our franchisees get through this thing.
Rob?
Hey, so yeah, I'm sitting here in Massachusetts. We operate here in New York and Ohio, and formerly in Florida. We have other businesses in Florida, not Dunkin'. Our construction business is going along pretty well. That one we had a COVID impact, so we're temporarily ceasing some of our projects. We're still operating Dunkin's. Anything that has a drive-through is open. Anything that doesn't have a drive-through, unless it's in a hospital, is closed. Our other full-service restaurants are takeout only. We've closed our lobbies, even though we could still have them open for takeout. We took out seats, and then we decided just to close them for a variety of reasons, some of which we'll get into in some of the questions. But mostly because the employees didn't feel comfortable. And I don't think it's hurt the business at all, the business volumes, and I think it's actually made it easier to operate and more safe for both our guests and our crew. So we're just trying to plug along, get through this, and I just feel really blessed to be in the franchise industry because we have a variety of means of support, including each other, all the people, even the people I'm not in business with, any of the people on this call who I know. You know, our franchisor team is with us, our supply chain, which is owned by my fellow franchisees and I, and my fellow franchisees in the system. It's a lot easier to be going through this together than it would be if I was operating independently out there by myself, trying to make it up as I went along.
Absolutely. First question is for Kelly. We had a good chat yesterday. What does the reopening plan look like for you guys? And what kind of guidance are you providing for the franchisees as it relates to that plan?
Okay, well, so first of all, most of our restaurants, anyone who can, most restaurants are open with third-party online ordering, delivery, curbside. None of our dining rooms are open anywhere. Anywhere, you know, obviously malls, you know, airports, etc. We're closed. We have a pretty large non-traditional footprint, and you know, we're open where we can be. I think what we're starting to see is obviously more people tired of eating their own cooking and returning back to restaurants. We've started seeing ourselves and our company stores and our franchisees expand their hours. And so we did everything we could, like everyone else did, to preserve cash and, you know, limited hours, focus on limited things that were really important to the business. But now we're starting to expand hours and look at, what we can do to, get reopened. The team has worked really hard on a road to reopening plan. We have not published that yet. We've looked at guidance from all the restaurant associations, particularly the ones who are opening now. So Texas, obviously opening up tomorrow. We've looked at their guidelines. Georgia's Restaurant Association has put out guidelines. Retail federations put out guidelines. So we have guidelines from, every state. They're similar. They're not exact. They're all given slightly different guidance. Some of them are looking at percentages of, capacity as the number of people. So 25% of your seat capacity can be in the restaurant at a time, or 10 people for 500 square feet, or, there'll be different things we'll have to measure. And we're trying to capture all that. I think you'll see more stringent cleaning schedules, but then there's all the things that, you don't think about until you get ready to open. So we had our ops team, along with a group of really good franchise partners, sit down and put together the plan, working with our suppliers, because you got to have the right. For example, our plasticware, our cutlery is self-serve, and it's not individually wrapped. You just can't put that out there, and so you have to have a plan for that. Most of our restaurants in our industry are self-serve, so self-serve soda fountains, and a lot of self-serve condiments, etc., and all that has to change. And protective barriers for our team members, and we want to make sure our guests are safe. I want to make sure our team members are safe, and our food is going to be safe. It always has been, and it will be. But all those things have to be documented, and not every state is going to be the same. So you'll see something like, here are the guidelines, and if you're in Texas, A, B, D, and E will apply to you. And if you're in Pennsylvania, it may be A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, so that's how you're communicating with the different markets, is you're basically building out a global template, and then you're just noting what applies to them. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, and so, there'll be some onus on the franchisee to do their own diligence in their own state, but we'll put out the best guidance that we can. And, there'll be new brand standards and new processes and, procedures, and, we'll change the way we do business. And I think the guest is going to expect us to change the way we do business. I think they're going to want to come in at least for a while and see that we're doing everything we can to make their food safe for them.
And how are you going about the when to reopen? Or is Dallas? I'm here in Dallas, and
so Georgia's open, right? So yeah. Georgia's open. Our dining room, and we're not going to be. This is not a place where we want to lead. Look, we're leaders, man. We love to lead. We love to be on the cutting edge, but this is not a place where we want to do that. I think we want to sit back and see what the guest wants at the end of the day. I don't think we're ready. We don't have all the equipment ready for our restaurants. There's no hurry to get back open if it is at the cost of food safety, or our team member safety, or our guest safety. So let others rush out. Let's see what kind of guidance we get after we learn. I mean, I have friends in every one of these states that are going to be opening up restaurants in this industry, and I'll get feedback from all of them. But Texas opens Friday. I doubt if we will not be opening up our dining room in Texas. And so, like I said, we'll follow in this area, but we'll make sure that we've done everything we can, and we'll give good guidance to our franchise partners to open up safely, correctly, with the right equipment, with the right, if we need to put guards around our soda machines, we need to do this right. So I don't think there are going to be any medals given out for opening up early.
Rob, anything that you'd want to echo? I know that your in-store is not open. You've closed, I think, in pretty much most of your scenarios. How are you approaching that from a when to reopen perspective? Are you doing it the same, or what's your view?
Well, Kelly kind of spot on about it. You don't want to be the vanguard, be the experimenter. Some of our Ohio dining rooms are open for takeout, and there's markings, and we have the plexiglass barriers. We've put those in all the stores already so that we're prepared. What I'm worried about is liability protection, and I'll get into what's going on Capitol Hill. I just got off a call on that a few minutes ago. But I'm worried that all these plaintiffs' lawyers are running around out there. There's no car crashes, no slip and falls, no casinos to fake claims at. You know, these guys are going to want to make money for the rest of the year. And the easiest place to do it is to say, my client got the COVID from your restaurant. So we already have a plan if we don't get the liability shield. So again, the plexiglass barriers, we already had a touchless mobile advance order and pay, so you don't have to have any personal contact. And it's funny, a few weeks ago, labor was our biggest issue, and getting people to use the app, getting them in our digital infrastructure. Who knew that this was going to do that for us? So that again is a step that's showing that we established a way for people to avoid personal contact, to avoid contagion. So that we're advertising it and documenting what we're doing. Again, we've got the dining rooms closed. Even though we don't have to close them, we could have them open for takeout in the restrooms. We're still working out sanitation procedures for restrooms, for when we do open it up. And, again, what is the social distancing requirement going to be in Ohio versus New York versus Massachusetts?
Yep.
We'll probably continue with the employees wearing masks. And again, I feel fortunate because sanitation and drive-through were two of our core competencies to begin with. And I know Kelly would echo that, being in a restaurant business for a while, that sanitation is something that's second nature, and we basically doubled the requirements that we had. And again, the two most important things: wash your hands, don't touch your face, right? They're probably the best things you could do. But we will probably keep the mask requirements, additional glove requirements as we reopen. And again, you survive the viral plague, you want to survive the litigation plague is probably the next big challenge for us.
Good insight.
Rob, you brought up a very interesting point, which when we discussed this, when we were on the call yesterday, I never thought about for the life of me. I guess technically you meant, a bathroom. Do you foresee, and I'll ask this to both of you, do you foresee people just closing the bathrooms? Because it's very difficult to have someone come and clean it every time someone uses it.
Yeah, I'm in no rush to open them. Obviously, we're going to do what our customers want us to do. And again, I don't think anybody's in a rush to have a dining room open. And then, some of the guidance, the draft guidance that's coming out is fewer seats, fewer tables. And I'm not sure that the plumbing code or the health code or the building codes that require you to have a public bathroom for so many seats, I'm not sure that's going to be literally enforced going forward. Again, because you want to keep people safe, and you want people to feel safe when they come into your establishment. So what the consumer wants is really going to be what the king is, and we're going to try to follow that as closely as possible. But yeah, we kind of have some draft plans about how many people can use it before it has to be cleaned again, and is there going to have to be a restroom monitor? We thought about all of that.
Yeah, and it's the same. It's going to be, a lot of it's going to be there's not much guidance around that right now, but like the guys that are giving haircuts, if they're covering each customer, they're basically throwing the cover away, right? And having disposable cover. Those are things that you don't really think about, but are you going to have to clean the restroom every time somebody uses the restroom? I don't think that's going to be probably realistic, but if that's the expectation, obviously we'll do it. But I do think you'll see the restrooms cleaned more often, probably more on a frequent time schedule. But it's going to be, it's conjecture at this point because none of us really know what's going to happen. But I believe they're going to be cleaned more often, and I believe there's going to be a whole new way of cleaning, not cleaning when it's necessary, but cleaning more on a time schedule absolutely more frequently.
As you see in Georgia, what's that famous place where you see all over the highway who opens up almost immediately?
Shoney's?
What's that?
Shoney's?
No, the 24-hour place.
The Waffle House?
Waffle House. Waffle House I saw is open in Georgia already.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess probably they're going to go through an experiment for a lot of people out there, you know, especially being open 24/7. I'm not sure if those are the hours right now, but yeah, they're way back. They're all open right now, just going along.
Yeah. I think they opened 400 restaurants in Georgia. So we'll learn a lot from what they do for sure.
Rob, an interesting question that I think the audience will appreciate. I think you guys have dealt with an employee getting COVID-19. So what did that look like, and what do you do?
So it's happened in a few different places, and you know, one of the things we're really worried about is we own some commissaries, and we're members of another commissary, which produces our baked goods for our stores and for some other franchisees that we supply. So we've had, we kind of had established a protocol because it happened. What do we do? How do we keep people safe? So we've got, you know, a company that comes in, sanitizes it. They charge you per square inch, by the way. Lots of new cottage industries opening up, lines of business. So we get that certification. Then we call the Department of Health. Hey, this is what happened. This is what we did. These are the employees that were affected. We've self-quarantined them. We had the COVID paid leave. We had our own paid leave. And now we have PPP. So you can keep people earning money, even though we could tell them don't come back to work for 14 days. And then reopen that when we could. You know, you try to keep downtime as limited as possible, but you want to be safe. You want to err on the side of being safe. And we have an advantage particularly in New England with Dunkin', because there's another one right down the street, right? So we won't necessarily lose a guest. And then we'll have a sign made up, hey, sorry, we're temporarily closed. Please, you know, use 5 Elm Street instead of 1 Elm Street for, you know, the time being. So, you know, we've gotten pretty good at that. And, you know, all the franchisees that it's happened to, we've shared that information. We've shared it with our franchisor. They've in turn had webinars and conference calls to make sure that everyone's prepared for when it happens, which if it hasn't happened to you, I'd be surprised if there was a network where they haven't experienced it. But if you haven't, you know what to do, and you know what the plan is to put in place right away. And you make sure that it doesn't spread to other crews. And we already have a variety of protocols for the general managers and people like me. Don't go inside, because if you're going to be going to multiple places, if you're asymptomatic, you're just going to infect your whole enterprise, and you want to avoid that.
Got it. How are both of you thinking about the deployment of PPP? A lot of people have either already secured or they just got approved. But how are you thinking about the deployment of that cash and the guidelines around it? You know, when you get into the who to bring back and when, balancing that with the fact that foot traffic is down, but yet you have your operational costs. Share a couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah, I give you my perspective. We're the exact type of company that needed the PPP. You know, we're not the LA Lakers or Harvard University. So
right.
So, I mean, we kept our corporate staff fully employed, and we were very productive. You know, so we were counting on it, and you know, we did what everyone else did. We preserved cash. We cut expenses. And we wanted to get through this and come through it stronger. We know not everyone will come through it, but we will deploy our PPP exactly as it is intended. We will spend 75% of it in that 8 weeks on salaries, and we'll spend the other 25% to keep the lights on.
Yeah. So for us, you know, I was heavily involved in getting that program established, along with members of the IFA or the Dunkin' people, other brands. And we're paying keen attention to the guidance, which does change. You'll see Q&As come out, whether it's DOL or the FDA or the SBA or OSHA. This stuff changes by the minute. And I guess my number one focus is lobbying right now on the ability to use the PPP to get it in the hands of my employees. And I think the way the program is established right now, it's competing with other programs. And this stuff was all passed so quickly. So one thing I'm encouraged by is Congress and their staff and the administration is listening to us, where I talk about, I want to reward the people that showed up for work. I'm giving them bonuses already just for showing up. Hazard bonuses. Thank you for coming in. Here's extra money. I want to be able to use all of that money for that. And the problem I have is I don't want to force a working person to make a decision against their own family's economic interest. Because right now you have unemployment on steroids, right? The additional $600 on top of unemployment. And then I want to be able to compete with that, because I don't want someone to have to choose that combined with fear of getting sick or bringing back an infection to your family. If that's the right decision for your family, you should be able to make that. And it shouldn't come at the expense of someone that does want to work. So if I can double or triple the bonuses and use the PPP money for that, I'd rather get that money into their hands as quickly as possible and reward people for coming to work. And I don't want to lobby against the extra stimulus for the unemployment people. The last thing you want is for a working person, especially a working poor person, to not get some extra money at a time where they're especially going to need it, where they're going to pay their bills. So it'll help them. It'll help their landlord, it'll help their banker if they're paying their mortgage, it'll keep food on the table. But it does set up a very weird competing set of incentives. And Congress has been, we provided our perspective, and it was refreshing to get back questions. What did you mean by this? What did you mean by that? So, stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be successful in getting the ability to use the PPP more generously with people that are showing up to work, and not have them have to choose between, well, I could be at home and getting more money. You want people to make the right decisions for their families, and you also want to reward people, because these are the people that are keeping our businesses alive and through this. And then with my fellow franchisees, all the chats and the webinars we have, we want to keep pushing out the change in the guidance so that everybody follows the rules. Because one thing I've learned, having lived through other things like this, when people suffer this much, there's going to be, this train's never late. There are going to be scapegoats, there are going to be investigations, there's going to be grandstanding politicians having hearings and commissions and Star Chamber tribunals, right? Somebody's going to be the example, and I want to make sure it's nobody in my system. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just quickly want to ask to make sure that we touch on everything. Are there any other not so obvious things that you've come up against? I know we've already talked about a bunch, so if the answer is no, then that's fine. But are there any other not so obvious things as it relates to what needs to be done now, and then also maybe the new norm going forward? Does anything come to mind for either of you?
I mean, I think there's a lot of not so obvious things that haven't come up that we don't know about, because I mean, people that did not and refused to do business digitally, 6 weeks ago are doing business digitally today. People are signing up in droves for third-party food delivery, whether it's from the grocery store or from restaurants. Look, those patterns are going to change forever. This is going to be a new norm. People are going to have food brought to them, whether it's from the grocery store or whether it's from restaurants. We're competing against grocery stores, so we're going to make damn sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure they're getting it delivered from us. But that's going to change. People are going to be very wary about the restaurants, and they're going to go to the restaurants that they think are doing a good job in protecting them. Not only is it's not going to be all about good food anymore. It's going to be about who's looking out for my safety. So I think there's going to be challenges in the supply chain that we haven't thought of, as all these poultry plants and beef plants and pork plants start closing down. Supply chain, people aren't in a lot of these places producing right now, and so there's probably going to be shortage of certain items, and I think that the distributors have been hurt, so there's probably going to be a new norm about the size of deliveries and the percentage of in stock and all those things. All those rules are probably going to change. I don't know what they are yet. It's probably still yet to come, because as right now they can handle our volume. We're all at reduced volume, but as volume comes back, are they going to be prepared for it? Is there going to be enough supply? Those are all things we're thinking about. We're trying to peek around the corner, but I think there's a lot of things that aren't so obvious.
Yeah, I agree with everything Kelly said. Some of the stuff, as he said, we're thinking about it, but have we landed on the exact right thing? Nobody has. Some of the things we have done that we figured out that are probably going to survive this, so like teams. So we have a shift where 3 or 4 people, it used to be 8 or 9, now it's 3 or 4. Those people don't work with anybody else. So if somebody gets infected, well, I can replace that thing, sanitize it, replace that with another team so they don't have to close. That's probably going to continue. And then some of our businesses cross-pollinate. So, we're, in the real estate business in a big way. And, we've got office buildings and, am I going to have office tenants in the future? So those Dunkin' locations or other restaurants that are in a downtown financial district, is that financial district going to continue to be a downtown business district? As people realize, well, I didn't really need that office. My teams are as productive as they were, and I'm not paying this ridiculous rent in a Boston skyscraper. What happens to those buildings? Do they become housing? Maybe that solves the affordable housing problem. Maybe it solves the congestion problem. And that's going to affect my other businesses, particularly Dunkin', right? Because my core customer is someone on their way somewhere, typically to work. And if they're not, and I'm already seeing that pattern change, like our busy rush periods have shifted because people aren't getting on the Mass Pike at 7 o'clock in the morning anymore. And that's gonna, those are things we've already we've had to figure that out. We've already got answers for those kinds of things. But will my office buildings get populated again? Or will they stay offices? Am I gonna have to redevelop those? I mean, society's gonna change. And if we can get ahead of that and start working on what the real estate answer to that is, we're thinking really hard about that now, studying stuff, looking at locations.
A couple of comments from the audience. Rob, thanks for all you do with Dunkin'. You're the lobbying extraordinaire. So someone said thank you for that. Also, Kelly, when you were talking about some of the sanitation protocol, that obviously consumers are going to want to do business with folks that are doing a good job of not only keeping people safe, but communicating it. So shout out to you there. I want to encourage everybody. This is your chance to drop some questions in the chat. We do have another couple of topics that we're going to run down.
Can I ask a quick question, Ryan?
Yeah,
so this kind of goes back to something that all of us are involved in right now. This shows being the advantage of being part of a franchise system. It's, listen to Kelly, you're talking to all your franchisees. They're not in this alone. I know you can be part of your local restaurant association. Rob's talked about, and what they just said now, thanks about everything you do for Dunkin'. There's huge advantages being part of a franchise system now because you guys can share the knowledge. The franchisees can get together and knowing that, you're not an independent out there alone trying to navigate through all the different situations and what other franchisees have gone through and things you guys can discuss what goes on in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a good dovetail into the topic of franchise development because everybody's trying to figure out how to navigate that. I think that's the story of the good news about being involved in a franchise system. So how are you guys approaching franchise development? I guess the question's for Kelly because you're the franchisor on the line, but how are you approaching franchise development? What are you seeing and what is that looking like?
Yeah, it's a good question because, it was one of the things we thought the longest and hardest about as we were really focused on communicating to our franchisees initially and, building what our plan was going to be. as we saw this coming down the road, and as we started thinking about what are the key things we have to focus on, and obviously it's keeping the doors open and protecting our franchisees. But then we, when it comes to development, a lot of the franchisors I was hearing, they're shutting down their development departments. And, we typically zig when everybody else zags. And so I'm like, all right, well, it looks to me like this is a great opportunity, because a lot of people just lost their job. A lot of people are tired of the BS. By the way, franchising is a great opportunity for everyone. And there's obviously millions of people in franchising, and a brand. This is a perfect time to be a part of a brand. To Brad's point, I mean, so people who are possibly either independent may want to become a part of a franchise. Hey, for restaurants, there's not much open right now, but restaurants are open, and there are a lot of people, I think, looking at that. And so we made the decision. We weren't sure if it was cool or uncool, but we knew there were people. There was a pull demand. Our leads kept coming. We kept lead generation turned on. We kept our entire development team in place. Everyone, franchise sales, design, construction, everyone's in place, and everyone's working on trying to help franchisees either negotiate rents. And we're still fielding calls. And so we had a discovery day a couple of weeks ago with 18 people showed up. That's more than what we normally get on a discovery day, a virtual discovery day. It was wonderful. And then we have one for next week again, and it's going to be a full house again. And so yeah, this is a great time. And you're thinking, okay, well, people aren't going to be writing checks right now because, everybody's preserving their cash. That's not true. We cashed checks last week on deals that came in last week. We'll be cashing checks next week on more deals. And so franchise sales and development are still going strong.
Yeah, and it's something that's playing out in the news even just today. A group of independent restaurant owners, some celebrity chefs formed it, where they want a segregated fund of that PPP type money, and they want to exclude franchises because franchise systems were very organized and very adept at preparing their franchisees to apply and to apply on time and to be organized and to know what information to have ahead of time. And they were successful in getting the money that they needed. Whereas maybe the independent restaurants weren't. And though they're somewhat hostile to our interests, that may be the best advertisement for franchising that I could think of is, if you're part of a system, you get to live. I don't know what's a better sales tactic than that.
Yeah. One question that came in for both of you: does the panel see less seating and dine-in options in the future? I think 6 months, 1 year after COVID. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure that that's the restaurant. I mean, it's takeout drive-through. Some of our other restaurant concepts, and some were on a private equity side that were invested in the franchisors. I mean, those businesses need full dining rooms on Thursday, Friday, Saturday to survive. Yeah, you can do a limited seating on Monday and Tuesday. That happens naturally, but I'm not sure that the restaurant becomes a viable business model if you don't have it. And then people go to restaurants because it's a social setting. The ambiance, the noise, the 100 conversations going on, that's part of what a restaurant is. I'm not sure that's a restaurant anymore. If it's more like a cafeteria, maybe. I'm not sure what Kelly thinks about it, but
I think obviously, we don't get to decide for a while, right?
Right.
So, yeah, the people are deciding for us. The governors have decided, 25% or 10%. That I think it'll pass. I mean, are people going to go to football games and be elbow to elbow? You've been to a hockey game. I mean, you're touching the guy next to you, and I don't think that's going to go away. I think it's always going to be part of our, at least American culture. In the short term, I think in restaurants, they're going to want to see, obviously, we're doing everything we can to keep them safe, the guests, and our team members safe, whether it's masks, gloves. I don't know if we're going to end up with shields, things like that. I don't know. I mean, it's all conjecture on this point. We're going to see how it plays out. There's not a market open in the U.S. that is allowed to fully come in and pack out a restaurant right now, but we'll see. But do I believe it will get back to normal? Yeah. Do I think that more people will have food brought to them and order digitally from now on? Absolutely. I think we fast forwarded a couple of years at least in that area. And so I think all of us that do what I do, we're going to be rethinking our formats, smaller dining rooms, et cetera, going forward.
Yeah.
I was wondering, let me ask you a question of Rob. It seems to me that the real challenge is, I mean, how many employees do you have personally in your 68 locations?
We had fewer than we needed before this happened. So, about 1,500 overall between all our lines of businesses.
Are all those people still rocking and rolling in the stores?
No, less than half. Again, to operate a drive-through, maybe take a typical Dunkin', a high-volume Dunkin'. I might need between 8 and 12, depending on the store and the seniority of the crew. Now I can do that with 3 or 4.
It's odd, the war for talent had us chase people and play with them and play pool with them and give them ping pong tables, and now it's really going to be trying to figure out the who and the when and the timing of bringing people back. And I've actually heard some people talk about it like it's theirs, like an employee say that, that you borrow the money for me or to cover my salary, and not, like I'm not sure that the world can retake as many people as it is expelled. So
it's an opportunity to pay people more, right? Because the business model may alone, I want to pay people as much as they can possibly earn, because they deserve it. But the business model might allow you to only go to a certain maximum. But I think like now, my people are making a lot more, because we're paying them more, but customers are giving them huge tips. So they're happy, and then I'm happy for them. And maybe, and then the menu's simplified, the job is a little easier. And maybe that continues, certainly with menu simplification, that Kelly mentioned the supply chain being constrained. So you may not be able to get everything to do LTOs and more exotic things. And maybe it's you focus on higher margin things so you can pay people more. So maybe it becomes just a better paying job, which I think would be a good thing. Certainly, we provide ample paid leave to begin with, and then government mandates started coming in, and then the recent COVID legislation came in, and I don't think that's going away. I think especially in an election year, it's supposed to sunset on December 31st, and there's a small call with Michael Latito, and he said, that's going to be in Big Fat Santa's toy bag at the end of an election year. That thing is not going to sunset. That's going to stay. Again, I just worry about the patchwork of different municipalities and states offering different benefit programs. I'd much like to see a standardized national version of that paid leave, and something I've been advocating for a while, as opposed to the different jurisdictions where we operate. San Francisco has something different than Cambridge, Massachusetts, and New York has a patchwork. It gets to be unsustainable. I like to see just something that's easy to comply with, that helps people, so that your employees are actually benefiting from it, as opposed to having a wrestling match with regulators about it.
One quick question that came through, Rob, as you were answering that, from Lori, don't you have to bring back 75% of your employees though?
Well, what we're lobbying on now is, like I said, we've called people back, and some of them have said no. It's not a dictatorship. I can't force people to come back. And then the unemployment systems, particularly in Massachusetts and New York, are broken right now. So I have people that are on paid COVID leave that have filed for and are getting unemployment and paid sick leave. So if you're getting paid sick leave, by definition, you're still on the payroll. And if I'm offering you PPP money, you're by definition still on the payroll. But they're just filing unemployment, and it's just automatically going out. And we're not finding out about it till we get a notice. And typically you would get a questionnaire and then say, this person's unemployed. Well, no, this person has 44 hours on the schedule. So they typically would not qualify for unemployment. That system's out the window right now. So it's broken. So what we've said is, hey, this PPP money, I got people that are not coming back. Can I just give it double the pay of the people that are here? Can I use it that way? So the people that are showing up can earn a lot more money. I'd rather just do it that way because that's what the money's for. It's to give it to working people. And it's not keeping people off unemployment because unemployment's competing with my PPP program. And an employer doesn't have an answer for that. Only the government can fix that. And you've got state and federal legislation right now that's doing this. And somebody like, Kelly or I aren't in a position to fix that. And again, I don't want to force someone who's afraid to come to work. That's not fair. I've had people say, hey, look, my mother lives with us. She's got asthma. My father lives with us. He's got diabetes and he's got a heart ailment. I can't come to work and bring that back home. And who am I to say, no, the government says you can't collect unemployment, or I've got your PPP money. I can pay you to stay at home, which we have paid leave to do that. And we were already doing that before this stuff got passed. So having lived it, I guess I can't give you the right answer to that question because I can't figure it out right now. I mean, all I can do is be as generous as I can be, follow the rules to the best of my ability, and let Congress know what's happening, and to try to use that money to get it into my employees' hands.
But it's 75% of the funds going towards payroll. It's not necessarily, I think the question was framed, 75% of your employees coming back. And you kind of addressed that a little bit in some of the stuff you're doing with the bonuses, but obviously there's some great.
No, it's not 75% of your employees coming back.
Yeah.
It's based on FTEs, full-time equivalents. And we're trying to get that concept changed, especially like the independent restaurants, right? And some of the sit-down restaurants, they're not open. And there's no way for them to, and if they just pay people for 8 weeks, they're not going to be open in 8 weeks at full capacity, and they're going to lay people off again. It doesn't really seem to make sense. So we've asked for a couple of different things to address that. We'll expand the period so that maybe it's the end of the year where you have to come up to full employment, because again, the consumer is going to tell us when it's time to reopen fully.
But it needs to be by region too, Rob, because obviously Georgia's open. Clearly, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, where majority of my restaurants are, we're not going to be open until June in the dining rooms,
Yeah, or allow us to select that 8-week period. Whereas, like you said, that if it lifts in Georgia, maybe a month from now, I want my 8 weeks to start so I can start getting people back, and then maybe the employees won't be afraid to come back to work, which would be, the other. There's only so much you can do. If somebody doesn't want to work, you can't make them.
Also, to clarify for folks in the audience that might not have the context, when you say we're working on that, Rob, is that you're talking from the IFA government relations and your activity thereof. So I just wanted to clarify that when you say that.
Yeah, it's not just me. It's the Duncan team, the IFA, some other groups, National Restaurant Association, the Chamber. There's a fairly good, solid coalition of people we work with a lot throughout the year. There were different priorities, obviously, 2 weeks ago than there are today.
Yeah. Rob, if you could keep us updated, I think Tony and team can put up maybe some sort of a blog post over on Franchisors.com if there's new announcements relating to that. So I think we can monitor that, Tony, if you want to note it. Lane or Brad, or I guess anybody have any other questions? We have a few minutes left here.
I just want to point out that, Kelly, we've been doing this since the minute it happened. I think I might have been standing 10 feet from you when the alerts were coming on the phone. At first it was like, summer, basketball, something, it was like the modest cancellations. And then the NBA got canceled. It was like Girl Scout cookies and then NBA. And then everybody was looking up and up and up. And it was incredible to be with that many people. We're still 140 people there looking at each other, kind of in the way that you look at because you're sort of in disbelief. But I appreciate your comments then. I appreciate it now. You've been really grounded for here. You were an original unconferencer back from the Fred Flintstone, no, the early days, and we.
Yeah, the first one, yeah.
It was like the first one.
Yeah, that was the first one.
And Rob, I know you got your hands full, and I know that one day you could hope to be a 2005 Legal Eagle.
I'd actually started practicing 2 years before that.
A little law thing on the
Look at getting them.
I see 2004, but I mean, you're probably a letterman too. No kidding. No, I appreciate you. We're all one family. I enjoy spending time with both of you. I know we all do it together. Ryan, fantastic job keeping everything organized. Thanks for the jam update. Folks, have folks submit their resumes and job opportunities so that we can try to make this opportunity happen. While we have created as the conduit, I'm very happy with the number that are being scanned in each day, and I think getting some of the recruiters and other folks behind it with their jobs could make it something potentially robust for people to get re-engaged. So in any event, I know you guys have full plate.
Hey, one parting thing that I wanted to ask that I just realized I didn't, as we have 1 minute left. So very, very quick, very brief. Rob, you mentioned that you're blessed not only to be a part of a franchising community, but to have a really great support from your franchisor. Knowing that there's a lot of emerging folks in the audience, is there one thing or any little piece of advice that your franchisor has done a good job with that you might want to impart on some of the folks in the audience?
They shifted their entire focus to keeping us alive. Literally everything they were doing, they dropped. There's no zombie projects. There's no, hidden agendas. These are our priorities. What do we need to do to pursue these simple things? Basically four goals, and everything has to serve them, and to stay in constant communication and keep touching your franchisees. And again, if something changes, you don't want people to make mistakes that somebody else made and learned from. You want to make sure you share that. And again, don't worry about the royalty. Don't worry about the inspection. Obviously, sanitation, you want to keep, doubling down on that. But it's basically stay alive till this is over and do everything you can to keep them alive.
Kelly, any parting words?
Yeah, same. I mean, our focus is keeping franchisees healthy. I mean, they got their life savings tied up in this thing, and I'm the steward of the brand, and therefore I'm going to keep the brand healthy for them. And we've also done the same thing. We were focused on franchisee success. We're deferring all royalties. We waived marketing. We're going to continue to do that until we get the dining rooms back open. And the best ideas are coming from our franchisees. We're sharing those, and being part of this community has been really helpful to be part of a franchise community. But the Saladworks franchisees have been awesome, and sharing ideas. Everyone has been extremely kind to each other. And I think the thing that people are going to remember the most, that when this is all said and done, is how we all treated each other. So
there you go. Those are amazing last words. Well, gentlemen, we've taken our Springboard Influencer series to new heights. I really appreciate you guys. We're going to come back and ask for more because you have your finger on the pulse or something that I think that few people will share. Anyway, thank you very much. Ryan, you have any closing?
No, thank you guys, and have a good rest of the week.
All right,
awesome.
everybody.
Bye, guys.
You guys.